Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to be choosing my October TBR. I have fallen into the trend on BookTube of playing TBR games, and this is one that I came up with based on the game Snakes and Ladders, and it's kind of inspired by a few different TBR games that I've seen other people do, so I will link any inspiration that I got below so you can see all of that. But like I said, this is based on Snakes and Ladders. So each color on the board corresponds with a genre, and I have them written down here, so I will read them to you. So we have orange, which represents fantasy, pink, which is contemporary or romance, gray, which is nonfiction or memoir, blue is dystopian or science fiction, red is thriller or mystery, green is manga, graphic novel, comics, anything like that, yellow is historical fiction, and purple is horror. So each color represents those genres. And so each time I will roll one dice. I think it's one dice, multiple die. Yeah, that sounds right. So I'll roll one dice and go to, move that many spaces, and then whatever color I land on, that is the genre that I will pick. And then after I pick the genre, then I will draw from my stack of prompts or topics or whatever you want to call them. So there might be my mom picks my TBR, or a book with a beautiful cover. A lot of these were inspired from Bookopoly or TBR Pursuit, which again linked below. So I'll have a genre, and then I'll pick a topic, and then I'll pick a book based on those two things together. Then, of course, it's the typical Snakes and Ladders theme. So if you land on a ladder, you can go up. If you land on a snake, you have to go down. So let's say I landed on 2, which is a ladder. In order to go up, I have to read green and pink. So you have to read the green at the bottom and then pink to go up the ladder. So yes, you get to use the ladder, but you have to read the book that you land on and whatever is at the top of the ladder to use it. So let's say that I land on a ladder, but I just don't feel like I'm going to be able to read that extra book. I can just stay at the bottom of the ladder. I know a lot of TBR games have punishment rolls, so like if I don't finish my TBR, what would happen. So I think if I don't finish my TBR, what I'll do is when I roll, instead of going up in the numbers, I will go backwards in the numbers. So like let's say I have one punishment roll and I'm on 81 and I roll a 4, instead of going up to 84, I would go back 4, if that makes sense. So hopefully that makes sense. If not, we'll see. And then the goal is to get all the way to number 84, and I will get to buy books that month. So the month I get to my finish line, I will be able to buy more books. That is my plan, so that I don't buy too many books in a month, if that makes sense. And I'm going to start this month with 6 rolls because I have a lot of books that I want to get to, so let's just jump right in with roll number 1. So it is time for roll number 1. 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, oops, 5, and that is a horror, and it is an ebook or an audiobook. Okay, for roll number 1, I got horror, which I'm super excited about because it's October and I have a ton of spooky thriller horror books that I want to read this month. So this was great, and it was an audiobook or an ebook, and I have a perfect one for this because I have one currently on my library loans that I need to get to very soon. But that is The Twisted Ones by T. Kingfisher. This is about a girl who goes to her dead grandmother's house to clean it out, and then they find creepy things there. I think it has to do with a haunted house or something haunted in the house or about the house. I'm not really sure, but I have had this one for a few months now, and it just sounds very interesting. And I believe the audiobook is only 9 hours long, so I could get through it pretty quickly, and I'm very excited about it. Time for roll number 2. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Orange is fantasy. And it is my most recently acquired. And for roll number 2, I got fantasy, which I'm actually really excited about this one too, because it was my most recently acquired. And technically I haven't yet acquired it, but I did pre-order it, so I will be getting it this month, and that is Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco. This is her newest book in a brand new series, and I'm very excited to read it. It is about twin witches, I believe, and one of them is murdered or disappears or dies in some mysterious way, and her sister goes on a quest to find out what happened and avenge her sister, and it just sounds so good. And I'm very excited to read it. Roll number 3. 3. 1, 2, 3. Red is thriller or mystery. And it is dad pick. And roll number 3 was a thriller, right? Yes. Roll number 3 was a thriller, and it was dad pick. So my dad did well. I sent him a text with a list of 8 books, I think. I will show a screenshot of the text. And very, very vague synopsis. All I gave him was the title and like one line of what the book was about. And he picked The Last Time I Lied by Riley Sager. If you don't know, I just recently read Lock Every Door and Home Before Dark by Riley Sager, and they were in my top 10 books of this year. They were so good. So he's very quickly becoming one of my favorite thriller authors of all time, and this one is a lot of people's favorite of his books, so I'm very excited to read it. I believe this one is about a group of friends who goes to stay in a cabin in the woods, and they're playing a game and people start dying. I don't know, but I'm here for it. We're doing great. Okay, roll number 4. 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Green is a manga or graphic novel, and it is a favorite author. Number 4 is manga or graphic novel, and I got a favorite author. This one I'm cheating just a little bit because I've not read any books by this author, so technically it's not a favorite author, but my game, my rules, so I can pick this one if I want. This is an arc that I have that comes out this month, so I definitely need to get to it, and it is the what is it called? The Dollhouse Family. This is a horror, it's like a graphic novel horror short story collection. That's all I know about it, and that's all I need to know. I'm ready for this. Roll number 5. 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Purple is horror. Anticipated release. Roll number 5 was also a horror, and let me tell you, Snakes and Ladders knows that it is October because it's picking all of the great books, but it picked horror for this role, as well as a anticipated release. So again, this one is an e-arc that I have from NetGalley, and it is Little Bones. It is about, if I'm remembering correctly, it's been a while since I read the synopsis. If I'm remembering correctly, it is about a boy whose father, or no, I think it's about a girl whose father is a famous serial killer. And so when people start dying again, they accuse her of the murders or something like that. I'm not entirely sure, but I do believe like the father's name is like the Bone Killer or something, and so they called her Little Bones, and that's where the book title comes from. So I'm very excited to read it, and I'm very excited to have all these arcs on my TBR because I definitely need to get to them ASAP. And finally, roll number 6. 1. Yellow is historical fiction set in another country. That actually works perfectly. And rule number 6 was historical fiction. I was worried about this one because I'm not really big on historical fiction, but I do have a couple on my shelves. However, this one I am trusting Goodreads completely because I had no idea it was historical fiction, but it is definitely under that tag on Goodreads. So we're trusting Goodreads on that, and that is for The Bone Houses by Emily Lloyd Jones. This is about a family who lives in a graveyard or owns a graveyard, and they can use the bones in the graveyard to do magic and maybe raise people from the dead. I'm not entirely sure, but I've only read one book by Emily Lloyd Jones, and I absolutely loved it. So I really think this one is going to be great as well. And I believe this one was on my 5-star predictions. So yeah, I need to get to this one. This looks like a very small stack because 3 of them were arcs or pre-order, so I don't have them yet. But this is the books plus 3 more that I got for my Snakes and Ladders TBR game. I still don't know what I'm going to call it yet. If you have any ideas, you should let me know. But I am participating in Spooktober this month. I will insert a graphic and put all of the stuff that you need to know for it down below. But it is a month-long readathon in October called Spooktober, in case you didn't get that. There are a lot of prompts for this one. I did not pick a book for every prompt. I was able to fit all of my my TBR books in there, but I also wanted to pick other books because I tend to read more than 6 books in a month, generally. So I got all of my TBR books in the challenges, but then I also picked another book for each of the challenges. So let's just go into those really quickly. So for costumes, I picked 2 books. For a scary costume, which is to read a horror book, I picked Dollhouses, or the Dollhouse. I picked the Dollhouse Family. But then I also picked a book for a couples costume, which is to read a romance. And for this one, I am reading an arc of Vessel by Becca C. Smith. And I'm really sad I don't remember her co-author's name. I will, of course, put a picture of it here. But I signed up to be an ARC reviewer of this book, and it is a vampire romance. So I'm very excited about it. Vampires, Halloween, romance. For the next category, which is refreshments, I picked Candy Bowl, which is to read a manga or a graphic novel. For this one, I also could use the Dollhouse Family, but I actually decided to pick Saga Volume 1 because I might need a break from all of these horror thriller books that I have picked out for this month. And I just recently got Volumes 2 and 3, and I want to reread Volume 1 so that I can remember what everything is about. And I also picked one for Devil's Food Cake, which is to read a book with a black cover. And for this one, I picked The Shining by Stephen King. I recently read Pet Sematary by Stephen King, and I also read It by Stephen King. So obviously I just need to keep going. And the shining is perfect because this cover is almost completely black. Next I have songs. I believe songs like party, dance songs, you know, all the good stuff. First I picked Thriller, which is to read a thriller. And for this one I could pick Little Bones, which is on my TBR. But I also picked a song for The Monster Mash, which is to read a book with a monster in it. And for this one, I picked The Fell of Dark by Caleb Roehrig. This is a male-male vampire young adult romance. And the last category is festivities. So again, I have two categories picked for this one. The first one I have is Hang Out with the Pets, a book with an animal on the cover. And I picked Kingdom of the Wicked by Carrie Maniscalco, which has a snake on the cover, which is an animal, so it counts. And the other category I picked for festivities is Carve a Jack-o'-lantern, which is to read a book with a face on the cover. I decided to pick The Friends Game by Kel Dietrich, which has faces on the cover. But this is an enemies to lovers LGBTQ plus romance about two boys whose fathers are like these big criminals like on opposite sides, so they're enemies. I'm not entirely sure, but I've wanted to read it for a while. So. And of course, because I can't be stopped, I have 5 more books here that I really would like to read this month. Well, technically 6 if you count the one I'm currently reading, which is The Family Upstairs by Lisa Jewell. I am currently on chapter 32, which is on page, oh, I'm almost at part 2. So I'm like about halfway through it. And I'm really enjoying it so far. So the first of the 5 additional books that I picked was The Death of Mrs. Westaway by Ruth Ware. This one counts as a buddy read. This one counts as a buddy read because I'm reading it with some of my coworkers. Hey, stop. Ware. I've only ever read one Ruth Ware. No, I've read 2 Ruth Wares, but I really enjoyed both of them. So I hope to get to this one this month. Next, I picked My Lovely Wife by Samantha Downing. This one I picked for a book with unlikable characters because this is about a husband and wife who kill people together. So hopefully they're unlikable because that's what I'm hoping. That's what I'm rooting for, unlikable characters. Next I have The Passengers by John Mars. I believe this one is about a group of strangers in a car that just locks and starts driving on its own, and it's part of some game show or something. I don't know. People start dying. That's all I really care about. But I picked this one for a cover that you cannot stop eyeballing. So, yes. And then I have Midnight Sun by Stephanie Meyer. This was loaned to me by one of my coworkers, so of course I need to get to it very soon. And I picked this one for a tome, which is a book I believe it's called A Book You Can Sink Your Teeth Into, which is read a tome, and this one is definitely over 500 pages. It is almost 650 pages long, so it's a chunker. And the last book I have, and probably, you know, the only one that's not like October-y, is Throne of Glass by Sarah J. Maas. I am starting my reread of this series and vlogging my entire experience, so I definitely need to get to this one very soon. And I actually did start it, so I'm about 100 pages into it, but I won't finish it in September, so I want to get to this one. Can we hold all these books up? The answer is probably no. Of course they're backwards, but do you really care? This is not all of my books because like 4 of them are arcs. I have 4 arcs in this, included in this, so like up here. You won't even see my face, but these are all the books I want to read in October. You want my drink so bad. It's not even water. It's Diet Dr. Pepper. Don't get any ideas. All right. That's all I have for you. Those are all the books I want to read in October. I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope it wasn't too chaotic. And I hope you like the game aspect. I had a lot of fun doing it. I think it will be a fun experience to see how it goes. And to see if I can stick to the not buying books until I get to the end, because that will be interesting. But I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you should give me a like, and I'll see you next time. Bye!